Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. We've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed live from Los Angeles. I'm Jason McIntyre here for day 3 with Greg Jennings and my man Rob Parker. Good morning, gentlemen.
What's happening?
Booyah, feeling good.
You know, I'm feeling good. Couple knocks in softball last night. I'll take it. We did get the L, but I got mine.
Took a lot of L's yesterday on this show, Rob. Maybe
No,
we'll
I
give you
did
some
not.
victories today ahead on the show. Yeah, I got to get him in. Come on. All sorts of confusion in Indy with Andrew Luck's latest injury. And is Jerry Jones finally starting to panic? But we begin with Greg Jennings' best friend, Antonio Brown. Brown has finally returned to training camp after missing the last week as he recovered from frostbitten feet due to cryotherapy gone wrong. Earlier this week, AB lost his grievance against the NFL to wear his old helmet. Since then, he has found a model that's been made within the past 10 years, and the NFL will likely allow him to wear it. Star wideout says he's excited to be back, and despite dealing with a lot of adversity, things are on the up and up. But former Steelers Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Cowher told CBS that AB is a very talented receiver, but he does sometimes create headlines that can be disruptive to a football team. Raiders coach John Gruden addressed Brown's return yesterday.
We'll work him back in. Obviously, it's great to have him back. You know, we've had a pretty good understanding in spite of what people think. We had a pretty good understanding what's going to happen, and now we're ready to get rolling.
You expect him for the opener?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right, Rob Parker, we're going to start with you today. Will Antonio Brown help or hurt the Raiders this season?
Before we get there, I want you to apologize to AB.
Well, I was
because
waiting
you
for
said that on Hard Knocks, it was all built up about, right?
Said
about,
you would do it.
That he was doing that about the helmet for the
100,000%.
show, and it was like almost non-existent.
Well, that's the problem, okay? Hard Knocks filmed last week.
But it wasn't about that. Just admit it.
This
you were
episode
wrong.
was about last week, and John Gruden said he was concerned. Did you see the tease for the next episode? All Antonio Brown. So the next episode will focus on Antonio Brown's helmet and his problems in Oakland. So let's get back to the question.
You were wrong. Just say it.
Will it hurt or help Antonio Brown, the Raiders, this season?
Of course he will help them. I mean, are you kidding? When you add a talent like Antonio Brown, I know everybody's so caught up on the off-the-field other stuff, Greg, because there are no games to be played, right? The last time we saw him was week 17 because he didn't play and all the hubbub about that. And so the narrative about him has kind of diminished what a player he is because we don't see him on the field. When this guy gets on, if I'm Derek Carr, I'm doing cartwheels. Are you kidding? My quarterback career can be rejuvenated, right? And even if it's not him, and even if they double at AB, other guys are going to be wide open. So I'm going to have a field day with him added. It's going to help the team offensively. And I just want to go just a little bit with some of the numbers.
Take your time.
I really.
It's a lot of numbers.
Am I right?
It's not a little bit.
But I mean, just some of these numbers, really. Most consecutive seasons with 100 receptions and 1,200 yards. Most in NFL history, right? Also, most seasons with 100 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Okay? In the consecutive seasons I just mentioned before, he has 6 of them, which is still active. Jerry Rice, who's considered the greatest receiver and one of the greatest 2 or 3 football players ever, only had 3 such seasons. This is how good Antonio Brown is. So if I'm the Raiders, they made the right decision. They needed to upgrade their offense. They needed help offensively with a big-time receiver. Greg, I'm all in on this. This will make the Raiders better once he gets back on the field and once it's about football.
Greg, I'm going to squash those numbers in a moment, but I want you, a wide receiver, of course, to talk up Mr. Brown. I mean, do you think he's going to hurt or help?
What are we talking about right now? Everything that Rob said, thank you, Rob, so eloquently spoken. It's a no-brainer. Yes, he's going to help the Oakland Football Raiders. He is going to help them. There is no question, no doubt in my mind, no doubt in that man's, John Gruden's mind, no doubt in Derek Carr's mind that he's going to make them better. You ask Derek Carr, who did I have to throw to last year? Jared Cook was their leading receiver. Jordy Nelson at tight end, might I add. Jordy Nelson was their leading wide receiver.
He was a shell of himself,
and he
right?
was nowhere near the Jordy Nelson that we've seen in the green and gold in his Green Bay days. So if you look at Derek Carr and you say, man, can he improve? Can he build on what he did last year? Yes. Look at their stats. Passing yards, they ranked 18th overall in the National Football League. Total offense, they were 23rd. Points per game, they were 28th. We're talking about a receiving group that afforded Derek Carr 19 touchdown passes last year. 19.
AB had 15 by himself in 15 games.
He had 15 touchdown receptions in just last season.
Led the NFL.
Led the NFL, yes. And so you sit here and ask the question to another receiver, is he going to hurt or help? He's definitely going to help. Let me give you a little bit more. So we look at their receivers, we look at what they didn't have, and now we look at what they have with Antonio Brown. We even saw it on Hard Knocks. John Gruden so excited, regardless of what everybody's wanting to throw out there because of what has been out there with the helmet, the feet, him not being present. Who's most excited about Antonio Brown coming back to practice? John Gruden. Why? Because he's going to work. He's going to make us better, baby. He's going to make us better. He understands the magnitude of production that he has walking on that football field in training camp that is going to lead into production during the regular season. There is no doubt in my mind that Antonio Brown will be ready to go, that he will give us what you just listed off, the statistics, the consistency that he's always shown. He will remain the Antonio Brown of the football on the football field that we've always seen.
And Greg, you talked about it yesterday. No one's ever said this guy doesn't work hard.
No.
He's a hard worker. You could talk about all the other off the field and the headlines and the Facebook, all that stuff, and I get it. I get it. But you cannot dog him about anything football related, doing his job, putting in the work. And I'm thinking that's why John Gruden's so excited. He knows that guy is going to do that, rubs off on other people.
Yes.
And now John Gruden has a chance to win more football games. He knows it. Everybody knows it. You take the Raiders for granted, you might get an L hung on you.
Interesting. So we talked about Bill Cowher at the outset, won a Super Bowl. He said Antonio Brown's done some disruptive things. You guys chose to ignore that. Remember the time when Antonio Brown took a water cooler on the sideline, just chucked it during a Steelers game? Because he's disruptive, Rob
Would
Parker.
you stop?
Hey, you had your
Stop.
moment in the sun, buddy.
Wow.
You had your moment, okay? I got a lot of stuff here, okay? We have
What was
at
the final
FS1
score of that game?
No,
I'm asking you. Tell me what was
I don't
the
remember the game.
Oh,
was 2
okay.
years ago. He's throwing
was
stuff on the
disruptive,
field.
but he doesn't remember.
Bill Cowher used the word disruptive.
Did that change the game? You don't even know.
It changed the
You're
locker
taking
room
one
and the
hot
dynamic.
moment.
Okay, I've got
Change
more
the
hot
locker
moments.
room
Come
and
on,
dynamic.
stop.
Because he's showing passion.
Right.
He's tossing things.
All right, gentlemen. Are you ready? Are you done? Okay, here we go.
Go for it.
So we are afforded the opportunity here at FS1 of having a lot of former coaches, GMs, current players walk through here at FS1. And I become a sponge and absorb as much as I can. We had Jeff Fisher here, who was great earlier in the week. Eric Mangini is phenomenal. And the one thing they keep saying to me over and over when I'm peppering them with questions is, we don't want distractions. What has Antonio Brown been from the moment he walked into Oakland? A distraction. Frostbitten feet. Helmet.
That's not a distraction.
It is a distraction.
No, it's
John
not.
Gruden on Hard Knocks last night said openly, I'm concerned. Now, he
But that's
said
not a
yesterday
distraction.
little
He's
bit-
injured.
He's
He's
concerned
concerned
because he's
because
not at practice.
because
And
he's
the
not on the
frostbitten
field.
feet.
But he's hurt,
and
though.
the helmet.
It
is a distraction when you're star attraction. You wouldn't pay Khalil Mack last year, and you're willing to go pay Antonio Brown, who, mind you, is a declining receiver. Now, Rob gave some great numbers, okay? He led the NFL in touchdowns last year. Last year was arguably Antonio Brown's worst year in 5 years receiving, okay? Ben Roethlisberger
15 touchdowns in 15 games?
Yes, Ben
waiting for
Roethlisberger.
him
Wait,
to
here
do
we go.
this.
We got more. Ben Roethlisberger threw 675 passes, the most in the NFL. Antonio Brown had his fewest receptions since 2012 last year. Now, is that because of Juju Smith-Schuster? Is it because of Le'Veon Bell? Oh, no, Le'Veon wasn't there. So Ben's throwing more, but to Brown less. Could Brown not get open as much last season as he ages into his 30s? Listen, Antonio Brown, we know the work ethic is there. He is a tireless worker when he gets in and doesn't distract people. I like Brown as a player, no doubt. He is a phenomenal talent to watch. But you could argue last year was his weakest year in the last 5 years. This is a guy who led the league in receptions twice 5 years ago. He's been declining in receptions and targets ever since. I'm not saying he's slowed down. He's still an elite receiver in the NFL. But he goes from Ben Roethlisberger, an all-time Hall of Fame quarterback, won a Super Bowl, to Derek Carr, a guy who had accuracy problems last year, who's coming off a bad season. Guys, I'm hopeful that Brown can help this sorry 4-win team, but I'm not optimistic, and I believe ultimately he will hurt the Raiders more than he helps.
I just have to just throw a wrinkle into your number.
Go for it.
Because you say it was his lowest. He had 104 receptions. The year before, he had 101.
104. Okay, not his lowest.
But you just said it was lowest. Yeah. And the year before, he had 106. So the last 3 years, 106, 101, and 104. That's pretty consistent to me.
Consistently lower. So I'm sorry. It was the first time since 2012 last year that he was not in the top 5 in receptions in the NFL. So he's fallen out of the top 5. He was top 5 since 2012, right up there. And now he's fallen down to 8th last year.
Oh, my goodness. He's
Go ahead. I'm not saying.
And you want to know why he possibly made that fall?
I do.
Because of Le'Veon Bell wasn't there to take some of that pressure
Thank
off.
you.
Defensively, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I don't see Le'Veon Bell present, I'm going to make others beat me, not Antonio Brown, so he's going to have to work harder. Ben, you're not going to be given this option like you have been in years past.
Who's Derek Carr going to turn to in the backfield? Does he have a Le'Veon Bell? Oh, he's got a rookie in Josh Jacobs. Defense is going to load up for a rookie, right?
But, Jason, also, I think one thing you got missing, also the last 3 years, he hasn't played all 16 games where he had in the previous 4.
Well, last year he quit on his team, as we said.
Well, but whatever you want to call it. But all I'm saying to you is I think you're not being fair with his numbers. His numbers are not declining.
Still a top 10 receiver, no doubt. But for the first time last year since 2012, he was not top 5 in receptions, despite his quarterback leading the league in pass attempts. Something there seems to be off to me.
I'm not buying it whatsoever. You can give me all those numbers, but again, I go back to the eyes. What does my eyes see when I see Antonio Brown on the football field from a production standpoint? You mentioned Coach Eric Mangini and Jeff Fisher talking about what they don't want, distractions. But did you ask them what they do want? Production. What does he provide? Production. Every single year, who are we talking about? One of the top receivers in all of the National Football League, Antonio Brown. Why? Because he produces. He understands what it means to perform on game day. That's what coaches want most. They want players that are going to show up when the lights turn on. Antonio Brown has proven that he's going to show up when the lights turn on. And another thing, it's not just even about the numbers. We talk about what is he going to provide for the Oakland Raiders without a Juju Smith-Schuster, without the running backs in the backfield that he once had in Le'Veon Bell. Well, he's a decoy if nothing else. He's going to draw so much attention that guys like Tyrell Williams that have come over from you want to look like that, but we're going to start talking about guys like this. This is why we have Juju Smith-Schusters making so many plays, because he's playing alongside an all-pro in Antonio Brown.
That makes sense, Greg, but Antonio did not like that Juju was emerging. His teammates picked Juju Smith-Schuster as the team MVP. How did Antonio Brown respond? I'm quitting. This is unacceptable, and walked out on his team. You think they're going to make a $15 million a year receiver a decoy, and he's going to be cool with that?
Were you in that locker room when they said that Antonio Brown didn't like that?
He quit on the team. He got in an argument. I read the report of someone in the locker room. Sources told Sports Illustrated Antonio Brown was irate when Juju Smith-Schuster was voted team MVP. He walked out to practice. You can go read it, Greg. I mean, if you want to dispute the report, that's fine. And him and Roethlisberger got into it, and he walked off and quit on his team.
Wow.
I think you're way hard on Antonio Brown. And there was a problem at the end of last season. There's no doubt about it, where he thought he was going to play, and because he had missed those days of practice, they told him that he wasn't going to play. And he showed up for the game or whatever, and then they said he wasn't playing, and I guess he left. Is that a good thing? No, it's not. I agree with you. But to act as if this guy is nothing but disruptive, doesn't add anything, and that Ben is without malice. Ben has even come back to acknowledge that maybe he isn't the best quarterback and best teammate in dealing with his teammates, putting them on full blast, and there are other situations. So don't make it like it's just him. And I don't know anybody, Greg, you help me, that wants to be knocked off their perch and feel good about it. I don't care who it is, teammate or not. Nobody is going, oh, yeah, go ahead, take over my perch. I'm good with it. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that you have to be disruptive and try to hurt the team, but nobody takes that grade. He still knows he's a great player. 15 touchdowns, led the league, and you're telling me I led the league in touchdowns, and I'm not the best guy. I'm not a captain on my team? How?
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
How?
So he did lead the NFL in touchdowns.
That sounds
and
crazy.
And then when the Steelers said, we're done with this guy, we're trading him, where were all the big-time offers? The Raiders offered a 3rd and a 5th-round pick, I believe. That's all it took for Antonio Brown. So it's not like the league was clamoring to bring this guy in. Let me add the next layer, and I don't want to be painted as the Antonio Brown hater.
What you mean?
He's
But
talented.
you are.
You're wearing the outfit.
I think the evidence
You're wearing
speaks
the
for
outfit.
itself. So look at this. Their schedule is the toughest in the NFL. Historically, one of the most brutal schedules for travel. They have 4 back-to-backs on the road. That is the league high. The Raiders are going to be in trouble. What happens, Rob, if they lose the opener to Denver? The quarterbacks that they face after that, this Raiders team's going to be in trouble. Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers. There's a chance this team is 1-6 out of the gate, okay, with this brutal travel schedule. How is Antonio Brown going to go from being a perennial Super Bowl contender with the Steelers? How is he going to handle that locker room if they're 1-6 out of the gate?
Well, I think he already knows where the team is and what the circumstance is. I don't think he's going to go in and be shocked. They haven't won any Super Bowls in a long time, the Raiders.
They're not even contending.
And they've been bad. So I think you do know that, but you also feel when you go, Greg, that maybe I can be the guy to start this over or change the atmosphere. I bring what I had in Pittsburgh to the Raiders. It's the same way why John Gruden took the $100 million and came out of the TV booth, right, and went to the Raiders. Yes. Because he believes I can make a difference. I can change this. That's what AB is doing.
Yeah, anytime you go from one culture and one organization as well known and that has as much history as the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you go to another franchise and organization like the Oakland Raiders, it didn't matter where he went. You believe that you are going to make the difference. That's just everyone's mentality.
Everybody.
You think you're going to make the difference. Does that mean that the Oakland Raiders now are Super Bowl contenders? Absolutely not. Let's be realistic here. None of us up here are saying that, but we understand what provides wins, and that is players. Playmakers, guys who can produce when the lights are brightest. And Antonio Brown, again, to my point, has always been that guy. You look at Derek Carr, you ask Derek Carr if he would take Antonio Brown, and does he believe that he's going to help him? Yes, exactly, of course. Of course.
You said when the lights are brightest, Greg. The spotlight on Antonio Brown. Rob Parker loves to mention Super Bowls. Well, we'll just dial it back to playoffs, right? The playoffs are when the spotlight is on brightest. How has Antonio Brown done in 10 playoff games?
Hey,
he has 4 touchdowns. That's it. I mean, he's a really talented player.
Have you seen
Undeniable.
Ben Roethlisberger in the playoffs of recent when he plays New England? Have you taken?
No, I'm specifically to New England.
No, I'm asking you because every time they play them, they lay an egg.
See,
okay.
what I
So
don't...
is that on Tomlin? Is that
I'm
on
just
Ben?
saying,
Is that on Brown?
It's a
Le'Veon?
combination.
No Ryan Shazier. Where are we going with this?
No, where are you going with this? See, this is what I don't like. When guys like yourself start to make it all about one individual.
One guy.
So, no, let me finish. Because what's going to happen is if the Pittsburgh Steelers have success, it's going to be they're better without Antonio Brown. Well, let me clarify something. You recall this. You covered the Detroit Lions. When Calvin Johnson decided to retire, everyone was worried and concerned about the production of the offense, specifically the skill guys in the receiver unit. Did that production decline? No. It got better, actually. Does that mean that
Calvin Johnson
was irrelevant?
Who said that?
No, but that's
my point. So despite whatever the Pittsburgh Steelers do, don't let that be your narrative. Oh, they're better without Antonio Brown. Because what tends to happen when you lose a guy like Antonio Brown is a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, who's always focused on him. Now he's going to deliver the ball differently. He's going to go to a lot more options because he's not so localized and focused on one individual that has always massively produced.
I'll give you another example. Le'Veon Bell. You know, everybody's beating their chest. Oh, we don't need Le'Veon Bell. Look, James Conner, whatever. These are the same Steeler fans talking about this, and the team didn't even make the playoffs. It's just like comical. They're telling them, we didn't need Le'Veon Bell. Look at what James Conner. Did you make the playoffs? No.
No.
And don't tell me that if Le'Veon Bell played the entire season, they wouldn't have made the playoffs. So people can paint it any way they want and act like missing a player like this doesn't matter. It does.
It does. No doubt about it. But I want to bring the focus back to the Raiders. This is a team, I said, that would not pay Khalil Mack. And whether your thoughts on Mack, you know, that's kind of irrelevant. But they wouldn't pay a edge rusher. We agree edge rusher is more important in building a team than wide receiver. We would agree on that, right, Greg?
I was just as blown away by them not paying Khalil Mack as anybody.
Everybody.
But that was a John Gruden's decision. He's an offensive guy. He wanted to focus on the offensive side of the ball, get younger players in there, get players that he brought in there. That's the thing about coaches. They want to weed out what they feel has been kind of tainted by the old regime or old culture and old ways and old thinking. So you get those guys out. A Khalil Mack, I would have never gotten rid of him. He decided to get rid of him. They got 3 first-round draft picks. We'll see what they look like. But Antonio Brown, the one right here in question, whether he's going to help or hurt this team, is buffoonery. It's absolute buffoonery.
I'm sure the producers will love to hear you thought the question was dumb. Rob, I'll give you the final word here. He's definitely going to help a 4-win Raiders team do what? Get to 5 wins, 6? We know they ain't coming out of the cellar in the AFC West.
We don't know yet. I mean, they'll just be better. I just think offensively they'll be better, whether it's his numbers or other guys around him. And Derek Carr will have a better season. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, he can't be any worse than he was last year.
I understand that, but that's why you go out and get help, right? Because you had problems the year before.
You know what's also interesting and very intriguing to me about Antonio Brown and all that we are seeing about him? John Gruden is so excited about him getting to practice so that these young guys, these other receivers, can watch the way he works. Because he's going, number one, when you have a guy like that in practice, in-house, that can translate what's in the meeting room onto the football field, it builds the confidence of everyone around you. Not only your quarterback, but the other guys that are going to be catching and receiving the ball from your quarterback. It provides that example of what it looks like. We heard it even on Hard Knocks when Nate Peterman, he doesn't see the guy streaking down, the Z receiver streaking down the middle of the field. He's like, you got to see that guy. You know who we got coming in here? 84 is going to be here, and he's going to want that ball. He's going to need that ball. He's a player. Like, that's what a guy like that provides. And we're not even talking about games. We're talking about practice.
Practice.
Somebody who actually loves to play football, regardless if it's the game, practice, off-season, working out, backyard. This is who Antonio Brown fully is.
Helmet issues, no doubt about it. Give me week 5 before Antonio Brown has his blow-up after they get destroyed and they fall to 1-4. All right, how concerned should the Colts be about Andrew Luck's latest injury? We'll discuss that, and don't forget, you can check us out every day on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We'll be right back.
No mercy.
Andrew Luck has been sitting out of practice since July 29th with what was thought to be a lingering calf injury from April. Yesterday, Colts owner Jim Irsay told reporters Luck wasn't dealing with a calf strain, but actually a bone issue instead. Then GM Chris Ballard clarified last night Luck has not injured a bone, but was having pain in the front of his ankle, and his week 1 status is currently uncertain. Rob, Oh, boy. How concerned should the Colts be with Andrew Luck's injury?
Given his history, I can understand why people are a little, leery because he's missed so much time. He's had so many injuries. But I'm going to say not too concerned from the standpoint of this. I think they're being cautious with him given his history. And I think they're taking their time not to rush him out because they don't want to further injure whatever's bothering him. And I think it's more precautionary. Now, I'm not a doctor. I haven't examined him. But I'm just saying.
He needs to clarify that, right,
I just need to clarify because I don't want people to be
I thought you went to medical school.
No.
No, okay.
It's called Columbia J School,
Journalism.
a journalism school. But in this case, I think that's what it's more about. And I understand because this guy, and when I say this, he's more to me like if he's on your team and he's playing, you got a chance, like an Aaron Rodgers, no matter what the rest of the team is. That's how big he is to the Colts, Andrew Luck. Last year we saw him have a bounce-back year, 39 touchdowns, 15 picks. And they need him to be healthy. And if that means taking a little time and maybe missing a game or so to get him right, I think that's the way you got to handle it. But I'm not ready to panic. Oh, my God, we're going to go through another year of not having Andrew Luck and it's the end of the world. I just think it's because it's him. People are panicking because of what we see. But I think it's more the right approach to deal with Andrew Luck in this situation.
Rob, you have to be concerned because it is Andrew Luck. Because you know this is our guy. This is the franchise.
But it's not the same injury is what I'm saying.
I don't care what injury it is. I don't care if it was a hair on his head. We have to take care of this. We have to be concerned because this is what makes us go. You mentioned it. With him on the field, we don't know how great they can be.
No doubt. That's no doubt.
Without him out there, we're not even talking about the Indianapolis Colts. Look at this. In last year, they were 7th in passing, 7th in points, passing yards per game. The year before, when he missed all of 17, they were 30th in both categories, passing yards per game, like total yards. And then the year prior to that, in 16, they were 4th and 9th. So he is a difference maker, regardless of who you have at receiver, regardless of who you have in the backfield. We've seen him do it regardless of who you have up front blocking.
That's why I mentioned him in the same breath with Aaron Rodgers. When he's on that team,
he's that type of a player that you have to be concerned about his health. And with him, as you mentioned, not taking a snap, since when was it?
July 29th.
You're thinking, like, when are we going to see this guy back at full strength consistently? And that's the thing that starts to draw concerns for me. And another thing, when you have one result coming back as, you know, there may be a bone issue, calf, and now it's ankle. When you start to have some variation in what it is we're looking at from an injury standpoint, now I'm concerned. Is it really what you're looking at?
And
Kevin Durant just texted me. Said, he's been through that.
You see what I'm saying?
It's even worse than that because it's been 5 months, guys, and they still are only finding out now what it is. Rob, how are you not worried about this? We're talking about, hold on, not just a great quarterback. Comeback player of the year last year.
Oh,
the Colts
that.
The Colts start 1-5, okay? They were getting shelled. They couldn't stop anybody. The defense improves, but Andrew Luck was everything. So what'd they do in the offseason? Well, he needs more guys besides T.Y. Hilton. They go get Devin Funchess, solid receiver. They draft Paris Campbell, who's slaying, by the way,
Eric
in
Ebron had an unbelievable year.
This is a team built around Luck. Listen, you guys know I do a gambling podcast for FS1. I was in Vegas last month. I bet on several teams to win the Super Bowl. The Colts are one of them. They have one of the best odds to win the Super Bowl. They're not even in the playoff discussion without Andrew Luck. Yeah, this is big-time seriousness.
I get that, but I'm also saying I think that they're taking a cautious approach with him, given his history. And then, I mean, you can paint, oh, my God, the sky's falling. You don't know that. And all I'm saying is, if it's the same injury, Greg, I would be with you. But when you talk about something different, you get hurt in football. You get banged up. There's something else going on. And all I'm saying is I think they rather err on the side of caution rather than rushing him out so that you feel good that he's taking snaps in practice.
How many times do they
when he's not there?
Are they going to
not
screw this up?
100.
Rob, the shoulder, they screwed it up. They didn't know. Oh, he's coming back. Oh, he's out for the season.
Well,
the lacerated kidney that he suffered. There was a quote from one of these doctors that said, Luck's injury from the kidney a few years ago was like something somebody gets in a car accident. And the Colts had no clue. They were like, oh, he's almost ready. Oh, no, wait, he's done. They have consistently screwed this guy up, and it's troubling. Last year, Andrew Luck was here's the history right here. This is really devastating. Andrew Luck was the second best quarterback in the NFL last year against the blitz because his ability to read the defenses and mobility without an ankle injury, he's not going to be mobile.
You just said,
they open against Ingram and Bosa on the Chargers. That is a fierce pass rush. If he can't run, I don't want him out there.
But see, what you just said is the reason why I like this approach, because before they were always throwing stuff out there, always coming back, he's not ready. And in this case, we don't know. They're not going to do that. They're going to take their time with him. Don't tell people he's coming back and it's nothing. Make sure you know that this guy is going to be in the best shape, and don't put him out there till he's healthy. So holding him back, I get it. You want your reps, Greg, and you want him to be out there with all the other guys, but I think the Colts are doing it the right way. Take your time with Andrew Luck because you've had nothing but bad luck with him.
Rob, I agree. I believe that they're taking their time and they're doing the right thing and taking the right approach. However, they should be concerned
5 months
because they've been down this road too many times. And when we're talking about Andrew Luck, we're not talking about a running back that we feel like the shoes can be filled by committee. We're talking about a franchise guy who has proven that he is a difference maker. Clear cut, no confrontation about that. The one thing here that I don't like is the misdiagnosing of what it is. And having played and being misdiagnosed, it's not something that you take lightly as a player, which is why a lot of guys get ridiculed about going and getting a second and third opinion outside the team dynamics and the team walls. And why is that? It's because you have somebody who's not tied to your organization looking at you now and who's not kind of skewed in their conveying of what just information.
It's a conflict of interest.
It really is a conflict of interest
really
that time because you don't know as a player, are you really in it for me, or are you trying to push me back out there when I'm really not ready? I was in Green Bay, and I do not think it was intentional at all. I got my last year in Green Bay, I had a sports hernia, what it turned out to be. Well, it was diagnosed as a groin injury, which all signs led to, I felt it similar to what I felt before, and I'm like, yeah, it is a groin. I thought myself it was a groin. Well, I get a second and third opinion outside of the team, and no, it's not a groin, it's a sports hernia. So this is why when you're dealing with players of this caliber, you don't wait. And that's where I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why have you waited so long to continue to investigate what this really is? Like, send him off to specialists and let them figure out and come back with information and intel that lets you know clearly what's going on with your franchise.
I think that's fair. My only concern is I'd rather them take it slow with Andrew Luck than just put him out there to please other people and to be like, oh, well, he's out there, he'll be fine. No, let's not say that because they've done this in the past and he hasn't been fine. So let's take our time. And I agree with you. Go out and make sure, diagnose it properly, and then get them back.
They are taking their time. I mean, they haven't had any clue what the injury's been since March. I mean, 5 months in. I think
Greg,
it's this.
You say that. Greg, Jason, you say that. But come on, there are doctors there, and it ain't as clear-cut as everybody is. Greg, would you admit that?
I would admit
everything's not clear-cut.
Time to get a new batch of doctors in there.
No, but there's somebody got to send you to a specialist, or they got to send you to another doctor because they can't really see or figure out what it is.
All right.
It's not that cut and dry.
I mean, he's had the MRIs, and if the MRIs aren't showing up the information that's necessary, that's when it's like, okay, we got to send them somewhere else. We got to get different scans done so we can really know what's going on. And again, regardless of what player it is, they still should do this. But the fact that it's your starting quarterback and he's that important to your success as a team, as an organization, you got to get this done.
No mercy. From one quarterback to another, Baker Mayfield, guys, has taken the NFL by storm, turning Cleveland around from a winless joke to being a playoff hopeful. The play caller doesn't believe that everyone has jumped on the Browns bandwagon. However, Baker said, quote, "I think in the media and everything that comes with the hype around our team right now, people want to see us lose just because the hype is so real. But we've got to go out there and take it 1 week at a time. We're trying to win every week." Baker, so well said. Greg, do you think Baker saying that what do you think about Baker saying people want the Browns to lose?
I agree with where he's coming from. Ooh. I can definitely understand and relate to where he's coming from. What you have to understand is within the walls of locker room talk and conversation, there's bulletin board material all the time of how great you are or how bad you are. Regardless of what everybody's saying that's positive, what's going to be conveyed is not the positive, because coaches don't want you reading all the lovely things that everybody has to say and everyone is saying. What they want you to have is some type of insight on what they're not saying, what they're missing. And so for Baker Mayfield, I guarantee you within that locker room, within the walls of the Cleveland Browns facility, they're not hearing all the buzz about how special this offensive unit is, what they could be. Well, they are hearing what they could be and the potential. No one likes to talk about what potential is until it's manifested and until we've seen it proven. And so for Baker Mayfield to say this, I 100% agree. I was in the locker room where the head coach put up, "Guys, don't take the bait." It was everywhere we looked, in team meeting rooms, in the hallways. Don't take the bait. Why? Because he's trying to keep us focused, not looking at what they're saying that is so good, that makes us so good, that they're talking about playoffs and Super Bowl predictions. No, I don't want you looking at that. I want you focusing on everything right here, right now, and knowing we still need to improve. There's still things that we have to build on, and we have to show it every single week. And so take it one game at a time. I don't mind Baker Mayfield feeling this way. I see why he feels this
Rob,
way.
I have a feeling you don't agree.
I don't agree. It's a false narrative by Baker Mayfield.
100%.
First of all, they have 2 of the 5 most popular selling jerseys in the NFL. Go talk to the people out in Vegas and all the money that's been laid on the Browns. Mm-hmm. So this whole idea...
I mean, what other jersey have they had to buy in the last 50 years?
I'm talking about in the National Football
We saw
League.
LeBron James jerseys at Cleveland games.
But
the Browns
this whole idea that everybody wants them to lose or whatnot, it's not true. Everybody's jumped on that bandwagon. Media people, fans, it's been, the people are falling over them. TV networks with the game.
Oh, yeah, I got that
number. The Browns are on, all that stuff. That's not for a loser.
Did you
That's
hear
not for somebody.
Rob, did you hear what I said about what head coaches are going to put up in line? Don't take the bait.
No, but
don't buy into the hype.
But this whole us against the world, woe is me, and it's ridiculous that everybody's already on board. For all the great that Baker Mayfield did a year ago, they beat one team over 500, a bad Baltimore Ravens team 12-9, and people have them going to the Super Bowl.
So now the Baltimore Ravens did they make the playoffs?
That was with Flacco. That was the game after which he got benched. Flacco was bad. They won that game. All the other games, when he was putting up 500 yards against the terrible Bengals and all that other stuff that went on, all I'm saying is pump the brakes. This has been a bad franchise, and they got a lot of different pieces. They got a unproven rookie head coach. If this thing goes bad and they start out 0-2 or 0-3, do we know where this is going? Yeah. This bus could crash very early on during the season.
Do you hear what you're saying?
I'm telling you.
Do you hear what this is exactly what Baker is exactly what Baker is talking about.
No, it's not, because everybody's on board.
Wait, what Coach Mangini call you? Hashtag inconsistent Rob right now.
That's not fair for this.
You're telling me every reason why Baker's statement is factual.
No,
because
it's not.
You're saying why they're going to lose. first-year head coach, camaraderie not there.
I'm just saying that stuff is all possible, but on paper they have talent. They have nothing but talent. They have big names. They are the darling of the NFL.
Now that's true.
They are the
100%.
darling, and
Greg.
you know it, Greg. Everybody's buzzing about what players used to call the Cleveland Clowns. That's how bad the Browns were. They were.
So, Greg, to buttress his point about primetime games, the most primetime games a team can have is 5. The Browns have 4. That's the most they've had in over a decade because the league network saying, whoa, geez, this team's going to be good.
Yes.
They got some players. And I want to go back to
They're saying they're going to be exciting.
Exciting, good, and watchable. And people are going to be rooting for them. They got the jersey sales through the roof, Baker and Odell. But I want to come back to Baker's quote for a second. And the idea of motivation. I read that Steve Jobs book, the Great Jobs book. And internal motivation was such a driver for Steve Jobs. And when I hear these quotes, as Rob said, this sounds like a false narrative, like they're making something
Us against
up.
the world.
Why would you need to make this up? Like 5 meatballs on Twitter are saying, oh, I think the Browns are going to stink. And Baker sees that because he's always on social media. And now he's pulling that up and saying, well, people want us to lose. No, 5 dopes on social media said something. Internal motivation is key. I know Baker has it because he was a walk-on and overcame a ton of odds at Texas Tech. Then he went to Oklahoma, overcame more odds. Then he got to the NFL as a small quarterback. I just don't like this. I don't think it's necessary.
Do you need that?
And again, one last note. I want to go back. People think I'm a Baker Mayfield hater because of the comments I made on Cowherd about his phone, blah, blah, blah. I just don't love the idea of quarterbacks always reaching for their phone. I know it's a thing now with millennials and constantly looking for that feedback loop on Instagram and Twitter. And then you see a
Weren't
couple.
you just doing that?
I did
before
not
the
do that.
segment
I have
started?
not done that during the show today. Rob was doing that. But I don't love that. I mean, give me the Andrew Luck who has a flip phone for the first 8 years of his career. He doesn't care what those jabronis are saying. I just feel like this is a big false narrative, to take Rob's phrase. Go with the internal motivation, Baker. Forget about these jokers.
Let me touch this really quick.
Touch it.
Because this is
hot.
this is a layup.
Oh, is it?
It's hot.
This is a layup. In New England right now, what do you think Coach Belichick is telling his team? That everyone thinks we're going to win. Everyone is saying how great we are. You think that's what the message is? You think that's what Tom Brady believes right now? You think that's what he's going to convey in the media right now? No. Everyone thinks they're going to fall off. Everyone thinks it's not going to happen.
Who?
Because everyone wants
One
it to happen.
guy thinks they're going to fall off. That's it.
My point is, when you have had success or when you have had failures, or in Cleveland's case, when you have acquired and put together personnel that others know that it's a talented personnel, the number one question that comes after that is, can they make it work? Will they be able to control all the egos on that one side of the ball? Will they be happy? Will everybody stay together? Like, all these questions happen. There are all these ifs. Can we? Can they? Will they? All these things that Rob has mentioned. First-year coach, Odell Beckham's out of New York. He's in Cleveland now. Will he be as invested? All these things come up. And what Baker is saying is, we're going to prove them wrong. We are going to be together. We hear all of that.
But why? Why do you have to hear it? Who cares what they're saying? What's the point of putting any stock, any value? If you're in that locker room, you love to talk about the locker room, and you've been in the locker room. Why do you care what they're saying on social media?
This is what motivates you. This is what drives you. You hear the chatter. Let's not act like we don't hear the chatter. Everyone hears the noise and the chatter. It's how you respond to it. And Baker Mayfield, I love his response. You know what? I hear it, and I'm going to prove you wrong. I hear the jabronis. The jabronis
right.
chattering, making all the noise, using it for clickbait. I hear all of that. We're going to prove them wrong. Why? Because I'm here. Period.
See, I get that.
I know you get it.
I get
because
it.
it's fact.
No, I get that.
Woo.
But I do also, I'm more with Jason on the standpoint that should just come from within. I feel confident. I like my team, whatever. Saying that out in the media or talking about it is not going to change it. It's not. Do you really believe that putting it out there or telling? Here's the one that's always happens, Greg, the perfect example. Better not say that in the playoffs. billboard material, right? Oh, that team's going to come back and beat you because you said something about them or whatever. How many times do they go back when the team who put the billboard material beat somebody? They never go back and go, that didn't work. The billboard material that you thought was going to motivate you, you know why they beat you? Because they're better than you.
Better, more prepared.
It has nothing to do with the chatter or the billboard material. That's so false.
But you know what would happen if Baker Mayfield came out and said, you know what, we're going to be great. We're playoff bound.
You don't have to say all that.
So what do you want him to say, Rob? What do you want him to say?
I love
If he doesn't say anything, it's like I need to know my quarterback is confident.
No. Sam Darnold doesn't say anything with the Jets. He's not talking. He's going to blow up in this league this year. He is going to dominate. You're not hearing a word about him. And I like it like that. I don't know about you, Rob. You're a Matt Stafford, Detroit guy. I like my quarterbacks quiet. But again,
you know why?
More than one way to skin a cat.
I love this because you like it like that because the Jets have been so bad. No one even cares about the New York Jets. So now all of a sudden,
just like the Cleveland Browns,
you feel like they have a chance to be good or relevant. So now it's like, no, I like that we're flying under the radar. No, you don't like that we're flying under the radar. You wish you were above the radar, so everybody was talking about.
Why can't Baker just say, I love the roster that we've put together. We got some really talented players. We're a young team with a young coach, and I'm a young quarterback. We're going to get there. We're going to build this.
You know what?
I can't wait.
You should be their PR guy and hand that over to him so he can say exactly what you want to say.
And would you have a problem with that, though?
No, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I want him to be honest. I want him to be real. Like, be who you are. Stay to character. This is who Baker Mayfield is. Don't hate because this is who he is.
So I'll give him this, Rob. As guys in this job, whether it's radio, TV, internet, we appreciate candor from athletes.
No doubt about it.
We want them honest. And this is honest Baker. Are we going to bash him for it? Not bashing him, but questioning it. And then the other side of the coin is, well, if he says nothing, he's not being talked about on these shows. You know, Cowherd's not going to talk about him next. And then we're on to the next guy. So it does kind of go both ways. I'll give you 1 point for that, Greg. It was a decent job by you there.
Poor. That's sad. You guys.
All I say, when they don't make the playoffs, remember I told you.
I didn't even have to argue my side. Rob did it for me. You told me all the reasons why what Baker said is validated.
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
I believe that most people in America and most network executives, sports media people want the Browns to win and want the Browns to be good.
Because they bought their jerseys.
Because of the personalities that they have in Baker and OBJ. They want them in the playoffs. No. They want them on TV to be in compelling games. They don't want them to start the season 0-3 and become irrelevant and have 4 primetime games and the Browns are bad. Yeah. They want them to win. So I don't buy the narrative, Greg. I don't.
Yeah, Greg, I forget the comment, but someone made a hilarious observation. If Twitter were around when Michael Jordan was playing, would he be responding to eggs on Twitter? I don't think so. Now, Baker Mayfield does that. He replies to everybody. He's always in the social media. And I think, again, to Rob's point, this feeds that fake narrative. Oh, well, these clowns on social media are saying stuff like, I got to respond. If that gets in your head, it can hurt you more than help.
Does LeBron James respond?
Occasionally. LeBron does occasionally. He grew up with social media.
Has it hurt him?
Yeah, he's lost 6 finals.
No, Rob, you had to ruin it.
What?
Jeez. All right, okay.
Thank you,
Charles
Rob.
Barkley is throwing out predictions again, Rob. And this one is a guarantee. We'll tell you if he's correct. That's next. No mercy. Moving on to the NBA, the schedule was released on Monday, and Hall of Famer Charles Barkley wasn't shy about showing his former team in Philly some love. The Sixers lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals to the Raptors in Game 7 last season. With Kawhi headed west, though, Barkley sees the East as a 2-team race. Barkley said, quote, I'm going out on a limb right now. I'm riding and dying with the Philadelphia 76ers. I know it's going to be a great battle between them and the Bucks all year. But I love Philadelphia. I guarantee you the Philadelphia 76ers are going to win the Eastern Conference. All right, Rob, is Sir Charles correct? Who wins the East?
What makes Charles so great is that he's willing to say anything. He'll bash the league, bash players. He does. He really does. But when it comes to predictions, Charles has not been really good. His track record is pretty bad.
Right.
Last year, he had Portland going to the Western Conference, winning the West.
Yes.
Of course, they got smashed by Golden State in the sweep. And then the other one is when Durant got hurt, he also said that Golden State couldn't beat Houston after Durant went down. We saw how that went. And there was another one, a little-known one. He also said the Lions would win the Super Bowl within the next 50 years. He's been wrong about that. Charles, stop it. And I know you played in Philadelphia. I know you love Philadelphia, and they are a good team. But I'm sorry. It is still about Milwaukee and how good the Bucks are and Giannis. And I know everybody poo-poos Chris Middleton because he's not a big name. He was a second-round draft pick, you know what I mean, and worked his way and earned his way into the starring role or co-starring role that he has. But when you think about what they did a year ago, 60 and 22 and all the way up, and they even had Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors down 0-2 before they came back and won that series. They looked like they were going to the NBA Finals.
Choke City.
Right? And they didn't get it done. You're just hurt, bitter because of what happened to you when betting. But they also won last year. You ready? 45 games by 10 points or more. They're a really good team and a juggernaut. And I'm not sure that Philadelphia, they still have question marks to me. I'm not convinced that Jimmy Butler not being there is a good thing. Jimmy Butler fit well with them. Yeah. He made big shots for them, right? J.J. Redick's not there anymore.
Big loss.
That's another loss from the perimeter. So I'm not convinced that Philadelphia is the truth. Will they be in the mix? Yes, they'll be in the mix. I love Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee will come out of the East, especially now that Kawhi's not there in Toronto.
Rob, I'm 100% with you here. I love what the Milwaukee Bucks have put together, specifically because of Giannis Antetokounmpo. We understand who he is, but we don't really understand what makes him go, what really makes him tick. And sometimes he alludes to it a little bit, and he kind of shows us little glimpse of it when he doesn't want to go and work out with all these other stars around the National Basketball Association. And because of that, you just automatically root for a guy like that. But this is why the Milwaukee Bucks have been so great, because their star is on a mission. The MVP of the NBA is on a mission to not only win that title again as most valuable player, but now he's had a taste. He's come close to getting to the finals, and it was taken away from him for something that he feels like he's let his team down without being able to shoot. So when I look at the 76ers and them removing Jimmy Butler from the equation, that was their closer. And you talk about big shots. They don't have that guy that's going to make those big shots in the closing game that's been in that moment. You got Joel Embiid. Is he going to shine in those moments?
He's going to be healthy.
Or is he going to be present?
That's another question mark.
Ben Simmons, can he make a shot or a free throw or anything? So will he develop that game and go to the next level? There are so many question marks. Are they a talented team? Yes, I totally get where Sir Charles is headed here, but I'm not going to dethrone the team that had the best record in all of the National Basketball Association last year in the Milwaukee Bucks, and how close they came last year. I mean, you give the Toronto Raptors a ton of credit, but Kawhi Leonard was the reason why we're not talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, not the 76ers.
Let me just give you a couple more notes that I think are important. Last year, the only team ranked in the top four, both offensively and defensive efficiency.
Yes.
I mean, the only one, and they were number one defensively. And you know that's a big part in the NBA. And the other one, offensively, they averaged 118 points a game, which was first. That was the most by any team, you ready? Since 1991-92. This is a well-oiled machine. This is a juggernaut. And you're right. They were 2 wins away from making it to the NBA Finals. He's hungry. He had a taste, Greg, and I think you're right.
A regular season juggernaut, no doubt.
They were 2 games away from, what do you mean?
Well, hold up. They led the Raptors 2-0 and then just got destroyed. 4 games in a row. Game 3,
but they
got
were
jobbed.
there in the Eastern Conference, but you're acting like they weren't, though.
Okay, should I hashtag inconsistent Rob Parker? I mean, you crushed teams for losing. They got destroyed 4 in a row after winning the first 2.
Jason, how much money did you lose?
I didn't lose that much. But let me bring this back to Charles Barkley, okay? Because Sir Charles, here's what I love about this guarantee, okay? So you guys know I started a website and we wrote a lot about the media back in the day. They still do.
No, what website was that?
Website. And, I sold the website, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things we noticed was these guys can come out and make bold proclamations. I guarantee you this is going to happen. And then they're wrong, and nobody cares. There's no accountability. I know there's a couple Twitter accounts that track this stuff. But that's the beauty of it. Barkley is going to be wrong here. I can guarantee you the Sixers will not win the East. Al Horford was a nice pickup for them, but I don't trust Embiid's health. As you said about Butler and Redick, 2 huge losses. The team nobody's talking about, and this is where he loves to be, is Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics. Addition by subtraction. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh. I think that's addition by subtraction. I do believe Kyrie Irving totally messed with their chemistry last year. He was getting on the young guy's case. He wanted to get his shots. He was angry at Brad Stevens last year. Here we go with Celtics highlights. Lovely. Because Brad Stevens is kind of tight with Gordon Hayward. Hayward coming off the injury wasn't very good. If you guys follow the Team USA basketball, there are currently 4 Celtics on that team. Brown, Tatum, Kemba, and Marcus Smart. They are building chemistry right now that they didn't have last year. I believe this team, when you toss in Hayward coming off the injury, is not kind of a sleeping giant, but they're the team nobody's talking about. It's all Sixers, it's all Bucks, and the Celtics are going to be my pick to surprise everybody and come out of the Eastern Conference. Last note.
Charles Barkley should be texting you to say, really?
Hey, Charles Barkley don't ever text me. I know he's tight with Cowherd. I need to get on the ends with Barkley. But the last note is Tatum and Jaylen Brown were in trade talks the last 2 years. Are they going to trade him for Anthony Davis? What about Paul George, Jimmy Butler? Finally, that's lifted. They are without the pressure of, are they going to be moved? They know they are the future. They're the foundation building blocks in Boston. I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on the Celtics winning the East.
I don't think they're talented enough to compete with Milwaukee. I just don't. And they might be a nice piece, and you could use...
Who's the second best player on the Bucks, Rob? Give it to me. Come on.
Chris Middleton. I just told you that.
Did you see what he did against the Raptors? Choke City.
But
Chris Middleton, he shot like 25% on threes. He didn't show up.
You could have a bad playoff series. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. Jason, what are you talking about?
Go to all the All-Star games you want.
We just talked about they average 118 points a game.
Where was he in the playoffs when it mattered? Where was he?
He had a bad playoff series.
Let me explain to you how this works. This is why the Milwaukee Bucks is so special, because you're trying to make it all about 1 or 2 players.
It's a star league, Greg.
But it is a star. And they have one of the best, arguably the most valuable.
One.
That's all you need to win 60 games, apparently.
Fine, 60 wins. That's good. Take the 60 wins. They ain't winning the East. I'm telling you that they will gag again in the playoffs because teams say, Giannis, we're going to give you all the threes you want because he started taking threes. We're going to clog the lane and dare Brooke Lopez and Wesley Matthews. Eric Bledsoe is their second highest paid player before the Middleton deal. You know they had to bench him against the Raptors because he was so bad? Guard play so paramount in the playoffs. Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet were huge last year for the Raptors. I don't see the guards in Milwaukee.
George Hill was huge.
George Hill had a good series, but again, they are going to miss Brogdon, who was their second best player. He's gone now. I believe Indiana Pacers. Give me Kemba Walker, give me Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown. That team is going to be filthy. Really good Boston Celtics. I'm a Lakers guy.
I'm not buying the Celtics. I think they're good. And Kyrie, if you want to use him as a scapegoat, and when they don't win, when they don't win and they don't get there, I want to hear all the people who say, oh, good, we're glad that he's gone. Because I don't believe that they're better with Kemba Walker than they. I don't believe they'll be better.
Rob Parker, not a chemistry guy. All right, folks. Is Jerry Jones finally starting to show signs of panic? Hey, this next topic is going to be the best one we do all day. We're going to discuss Jerry Jones next.
No mercy.
Things are not going smoothly for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Who saw this coming? Ezekiel Elliott continues his holdout and is not in camp. There's no deal in place after this season for wide receiver Amari Cooper, who missed practice again and is day-to-day with a foot injury. Of course, meanwhile, Dak Prescott reportedly asked for $40 million a year and also remains unsigned after this season. When asked about getting these deals done, Jerry had a very Jerry-esque answer.
Picture if you were a driver of a car and you had a wreck and your hand was almost severed off, but you didn't understand your anatomy. You look down, you're spurting blood, you open the door and run to the woods and either die bleeding to death or shock. The educated man looks down, knows his anatomy, squeezes and knows his best chance is to wait for help. That's because he's been there a lot and done that. And so I'm waiting, I'm squeezing and waiting for help.
You're waiting for help.
Oh, God. Greg Jennings.
Are you bleeding
Does
over
it
there,
sound-
Greg? Are you all right?
Does it sound like Jerry Jones is starting to panic?
You see, I'm squeezing and waiting for help.
You need help.
Because I'm an educated man when it comes to these situations. No, I don't think he's starting to panic. He just eloquently told us in his own way, the only way that we know Jerry knows how to tell us is that he needs help. And we understand the help that he does need. He needs these guys to understand that, look, we're trying to do this all together. These guys being Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, we understand he's in camp. He's just injured. That's a part of camp. I'm not concerned about that. Neither should Jerry Jones be concerned about that. That's what happens in camp. Guys miss time. You're going to be okay. He's present. Dak Prescott, another guy who they're trying to sign. He's in camp. He's not bitter. He's not complaining about his contract situation. He's taking the proper precautions as a quarterback to make sure that he gets his number, but he's still doing the things the right way. He's still present. He's still actively a part of what they're doing and what they're going to be doing in the future. Ezekiel Elliott, on the other hand, this is where he's talking about he needs help. Like, I need help with you, Zeke. Zeke, you got to come back. It's not a panic. It's just an ask for help, because Ezekiel Elliott, what he has to understand, although I do believe he's deserving of being paid, he has no leverage in this situation whatsoever.
I disagree with
not
you 100%.
Yet. Hold on,
he has no leverage. When Le'Veon Bell did this, and he was willing to sit out an entire season because he knew he was not going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers the following year. Well, we can't say that about Ezekiel Elliott because he's under 2 more years of contract and they have the option of a 5th year. So he has to give them some type of help to where we can meet somewhere in the middle and we can get you back here on the football field practicing so we can do something special. That's the only concern that Jerry Jones may have, is we have something special. It's my job to get these deals done. He said it earlier. When have I not gotten a deal done? It may take longer than what he thought or we think, but he'll get it done. That's what his job is, and his operation is to do that. We just have to wait.
I don't think Jerry's panicking either from this standpoint. They have the money. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how much you're giving. You know what I mean? So it's not like, it's one thing if you don't have the money and you got 3 people to pay, then you got to figure out who you're keeping, who's got to go. So that's not really the issue. In this case, though, I disagree with you from the standpoint that I think Ezekiel Elliott does have leverage against the Cowboys only from this standpoint. Because of that man, Jerry Jones. He's the one who has the championship biological clock ticking loudly in his ear. Yes, he's already been inducted into the Hall of Fame, but he wants to win. You just said it. They have something special. Do you really want this season to go off the rails because you don't get your running back? The whole team, you talked about it yesterday, Greg, is geared around the running game, not the passing game. So you want to tear it up and start all over, and you want Dak Prescott to go out there and throw the ball 40 times because you don't have that star running back? You can't do that. This team is built around it. He does have leverage. Jerry wants to win. Jerry knows he can't win without the running back. Jerry can put into the VCR or whatever people watch nowadays, the DVR, right? I've got VCR, DVR, and watch the playoff game against the Rams when the run was stopped and how Dak couldn't get them where he wanted them to go. I'm just saying, it's all out there for him. He needs Ezekiel Elliott, and he's going to come around. Mark my words, Jerry will bend, and Jerry will take care of Ezekiel Elliott because he needs him.
Boy, for somebody who said Jerry's not panicking, you sound like sounds like a full throttle panic.
I'm just saying he's trying to win. Do you disagree with that?
Yes.
That he needs to win,
He
Jerry.
is panicking. Listen, guys.
He's not panicking.
First of all, I'm on an island here again, just how I like it. But I believe Jerry Jones watched this show yesterday and heard me go through all the problems that the Cowboys have. Jason Garrett, lame duck coach. Star running back on a beach in Mexico right now. Amari Cooper, how bad is that injury? Is he not practicing because he's waiting for Julio Jones to sign his contract? So then Amari can say, that's the number I want? We don't know. Dak Prescott calling for $30, $40 million. Can't wait for Eric Mangini to come on here today. Talk up more Dak Prescott. The defense, your two best defenders, or two of the three best. DeMarcus Lawrence got paid coming off shoulder surgery. Byron Jones coming off surgery. There's about 8 or 9 questions for a 10-win Cowboy team from last year that made the second round. And now their 76-year-old billionaire owner is talking about bleeding out and needing help. Folks, I repeated this from yesterday. I don't see a path to this team fixing all these problems in the next 2 weeks before the season starts. This is full throttle panic from Jerry Jones.
It's not full throttle panic. Did you continue to listen to what he said in his analogy? An educated man is not going to bleed out. He's going to put a hold on his hand
and wait for somebody
and
to
wait
come.
for some help.
Where's the help coming from?
The help is coming when Ezekiel Elliott decides to come back to camp.
You just heard Rob say Zeke has the leverage. Now, here's the scenario that everybody loves. Cowboys happen to start 3-0 because they open with the Giants, Redskins, and Dolphins. They'll be favorites in that. There's going to be a false narrative out there. The Cowboys don't need Zeke. You know this is coming.
What if they start 1-2?
I can't imagine. If that happens, it's give Zeke all the money.
Okay.
But more likely is they start 3-0. They're not worried about Zeke. Then the schedule gets tough. First place schedule because they won the NFC East. I think Jerry knows there ain't no help on the way. If Zeke is who you're waiting for and he's waiting for them to lose and waiting to get paid, why is that happening?
It's not just that they're waiting on Ezekiel Elliott. They're wanting these guys to understand where they're coming from. And as a player, you clearly understand where they're coming from, but you have to take care of yourself. And it sounds selfish to the novice fan who just thinks the player is all about himself and his own financial security. Well, in life, if we look at everyone, they're typically concerned about themselves and their own financial security.
Especially when the CBA doesn't work for them.
Exactly.
This is a different scenario than most football players.
And so for me, what Jerry Jones is doing is making sure these guys know that, look, I'm not willing to just give you whatever it is you want. I'm willing to give you what I know you deserve and what is best for everyone so that we can get your counterparts in here as well.
Hey, Jerry, don't tell me what's best for me, okay? Let me decide what's best for me. Jason Garrett, final year. Ezekiel Elliott wants to get paid. Cooper, Dak, they're all thinking individually. How is this not going to eat at the chemistry of this team?
We're not worried about Jason Garrett. We're not worried.
Your head coach.
No. No, he's been a puppet from day one. Why are we even talking about Jason Garrett?
Right. And if
he's been a liability for them from day one. Now he's a lame duck coach.
But they just won 2 of the 3 divisions. And my only thing is, and I'm not a big Jason Garrett fan, but from the standpoint, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed with him. It's not even a shock that he doesn't have most guys, Greg, if you win 2 out of 3 divisions, would you have an extension?
Yes. Nothing's changed.
99% of the guys
he's got a new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. He's got a running back that's not shown up who the offense is geared around. What do you mean nothing has changed?
It is this is how they run the Cowboys. All I'm telling you is you need your players more than you need a coach. And if you don't get Ezekiel Elliott back in there, and I look at the schedule. Ask yourself, do you want to be undermanned in those games that you're supposed to win, or do you want your full squad? When you lose those games, and now, Greg, you're a wild card team instead of winning the division, and you have a road playoff game instead of being at home, does that make a big difference?
It makes a big
huge
difference. Rob, you talked about the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones having the money to pay these guys. That is the reason why there is no panic.
Right.
There is no panic. If I really want to pay these guys, I can pay these guys. But I want it to be on my terms. That's all Jerry Jones is trying to get to. He wants it on his terms, on his buck. And for Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, and Amari Cooper, they want it on theirs because they understand the landscape of what's in front of them. Ezekiel Elliott is trying to up the running back market. He's seen the other guys getting paid, and he's a workhorse, and he doesn't want all those carries and catches on his body going into year 4. So, you know what? Pay me.
Okay,
Pay me my
we've got a
worth.
standoff between your 3 offensive stars and the owner. Who capitulates first, Greg Jennings? Does Dak say, "Fine, give me whatever I want, give me whatever you want, I'll take it"? Which side is going to cave in first?
I don't need Dak. Dak is going to play. He's here. Amari Cooper is going to play. He's here. That's what I'm saying. I just need help from Ezekiel Elliott. Yep. Are you not understanding? Everyone else is in camp. They're just hurt or they're playing and they're going to produce. Now I just need this one piece that completes everything to at least show up.
Dak's probably going to be happy, right? The guy he got drafted with, Carson Wentz, got paid. He's going out this season. Dak didn't get paid. All right. Is Antonio Brown going to help or hurt the Raiders in the long run? Eric Mangini, who's been so dominant the last 2 days, he's here
get ridiculous
to give
now.
us his answers next.
No mercy.
Antonio Brown has finally returned to training camp after missing the last week as he recovered from frostbitten feet due to cryotherapy gone wrong. Earlier this week, AB lost his grievance against the NFL to wear his old helmet. Since then, he has found a model that's been made within the past 10 years that the NFL will likely allow him to wear. The star wideout says he's excited to be back with the team. Former Steelers Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Cowher told CBS that AB is a very talented receiver, but he does sometimes create headlines that can be disruptive to a football team. Raiders coach John Gruden said he and AB have a good understanding and he is expected to play in Week 1. We're now joined by FS1 NFL analyst Eric Mangini. Eric.
They let you back in the building after that performance yesterday?
Yeah.
I had to go get a massage because that beatdown wore me out.
He's on fire out of the gate.
Yeah,
Eric.
I'm surprised you wanted me back.
Will Antonio Brown help or hurt the Raiders this season?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of both.
Yes.
And he's one of these guys that we talk about a lot who's unbelievably talented. And there's some management issues. And you when you take chances like that, you've got to manage 6 days to get to the 7th day, to get to game day, and that's where the production and that's where the value comes in. So there's that component of it, and he's going to be incredibly productive if he plays. What's it, 6 straight years of 100-plus catches, and the things that you have to do defensively to handle him, that'll open up so many other things. Now, the problem is the other 6 days, if you're trying to create a certain culture, and this still is a new program, it's only in the 2nd year of the program, and when you look at who they drafted and the type of guys they drafted and all highly regarded and from a character perspective, when you combine these two things, it's very mixed messages. And when you preach in the locker room one thing, that's great. You can say everything you want, but the guys know you value what you pay. You value what you pay. So wherever you put your money, the players in the locker room know, okay, it's okay to be like that. That's what this organization values. And that's the danger when you mix in situations like this.
Don't players also realize if you can produce? You know, if you're not producing, you can't have the antics. So they do, and I agree with you, but I still believe that they look and they go, when you look at these eye-popping numbers that you just talked about, and this is a guy, Jerry Rice only did it 3 times. He's done it 6 times, still active. Last year, 15 touchdowns in 15 games. Nobody as a receiver has put up the numbers that he has. He's been incredible. So I think players, yes, they look at it. And the other part is I think John Gruden's star and brightness, right? Fits in a little bit. He's not your typical coach. He's out there, very visible. I would say not stoic at all, camera hungry, soundbite kind of guy. So he fits in with AB, and you do know once you sign a guy like that, you're going to have to make some concessions, no?
You absolutely know that. And you go into it with your eyes wide open, and he's done this in the past. Now, the difficulty is when you work as hard as you work as a coach, and it looks like John works pretty hard, and you put together that game plan is predicated on people knowing what to do and being in the right spots. And that's everybody knowing what to do. And you're always limited by either your hardest learner or the guy that works the least, and I mean from a learning standpoint. So if he wants to shift and motion and have multiple formations and do all those things, and you don't have a guy who's putting it in the classroom, or it limits you, that can be very frustrating to especially a guy like John who does so many things, and you hear it all the time about the length of his call sheet and things along those lines. And from a cultural perspective, yeah, guys respect talent. Guys respect production, but the guys, it still is a community in the locker room. And it's hard as a coach to say, we demand this from everybody but you. Okay, and then everybody else looks around the room and says, okay, I get he's a good player, but I'm a good player too. So why don't I have that same leeway?
Yeah, Greg, you see where he's going with this, right?
I see where he's going, but I mean, he helps the Oakland Raiders. And let me just touch on this really quick. In the locker room, guys understand that it's just what takes place. There's a protocol. There's a hierarchy. Whether it's your quarterback, whether it's your star running back, whether it's your star receiver, defensive end, doesn't matter. There's a hierarchy, and guys look to that guy and say, hey, you have the coach's endorsement. Can you do this for us? Can you do that? It's not so much that they want to be that guy or they want to act that to the extremes of that individual. They don't need to, because that individual is going to be who they are, and they're going to be who they need to be. But we're going to use this individual as leverage.
To set the tone?
Yes, to set the tone, but also to be the voice of reason. Because, as you said, the coach obviously has endorsed this, which rightfully so, because he understands the magnitude of impact that he will have when he's on the football field. And that's all this is about. The fact that Antonio Brown has not been able to practice, that we haven't seen him actually in training camp and producing and being a part of that offense and learning with these guys and building a rapport with Derek Carr right now during training camp. That's what this is all about. Once that happens, all of this cryotherapy, and helmet, we're not talking about that any longer.
Yeah, production can erase that, but Greg, very rarely do you meet with a player who says, you know, I'm not as good as that other guy, so I should be treated poorly. I should be treated, not poorly, but I should be held to a totally higher standard than him because I'm not as good as him. Most players you interact with, they feel like they're as good as the next guy. So it would be an interesting dynamic if you had a whole locker room that said, okay, he can act any way that he wants to act, and I'll follow all the rules, but that doesn't always take place. Usually guys come in and say, you did it for him, why aren't you doing it for me?
That happens typically when your locker room is full of a variety of guys, both veteran and young guys. But as a young guy, you bring in young guys, they're not going to concern themselves with what Antonio Brown is doing because everything is new to me. So I don't know, I see this, but I know I can't do that.
You'll be off the team.
Look, I remember Asante Samuel, and I love Asante, and Asante is early in his career.
So you're ripping on him. Go ahead.
No, I'm not ripping on him. I love Asante, and I love Ty Law, okay? And Ty Law had been there and been productive and signed a $100 million contract or whatever it was, and he had certain leeways in the defense that Asante Samuel didn't have. But Asante was still in the office going, well, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Why can't I do that? And this was early in his career, and obviously Asante went on and had an amazing career. But at that point, he was held to a different standard because he had done different things from a production standpoint. But it's still, he saw how this guy was treated, and he said, well, why can't I do that?
Eric, I want to focus on the Bill Cowher comments because these guys are glossing over it. This is a guy who has been with the Steelers forever. Mike Tomlin knows him well. We haven't heard any Steelers talk about Antonio Brown. No veiled shots.
They turned
no,
the page.
Have they? What do you make of the Cowher comments? Calling Antonio Brown disruptive, to me, I wonder, is this Mike Tomlin and the Steelers' way of speaking through Bill Cowher?
No, I think that Mike Tomlin, I respect Mike a lot, and I've always felt that Mike will say what he feels, and there's no value in the Pittsburgh Steelers continuing to have a disagreement with a player that's no longer there.
Right.
They said all they needed to say when they traded him for a third-round draft pick. That was about as loud a megaphone as the Pittsburgh Steelers could use, because when you got a guy like Odell Beckham who goes for 1 and then you give away Antonio Brown for 3, that's a pretty strong statement. In terms of a guy being disruptive, is anybody surprised by those comments? But you go into it, again, knowing what you're going to get. And as long as you can live organizationally and as a coaching staff with the challenges that come with those guys, then so be it. It's not for everybody. It's not really what happens in New England. You may get some guys who have been disruptive at other places, but they fall in line when they come there, and we see how that worked out.
Look,
what are you shaking your head about?
Because I'm going to tell you why.
You shut him up.
Your silence speaks volumes.
Because you mentioned New England, and I just thought.
He's shaking his head because there's a scripture in the Bible that says love covers a multitude of sins. And so when I look at this Antonio Brown situation, his production covers a multitude of whatever we want to call it. Foolishness, antics, baggage. It covers that up when you continue to produce the way that he's produced over his career, as consistently as he's been able to produce over his career. And again, it's not just about the numbers, why he's going to help this Oakland Raiders team become a better team. It's what you mentioned even earlier. Defenses have to now schematically approach the game differently. He's going to open it up for other guys alongside of him.
Derek Carr, right?
Derek Carr's going to be better of it. Derek Carr had 19 touchdowns last year. 19 touchdowns, 10 of which were to tight ends. That means 9 were to his receivers. His leading receiver was Jordy Nelson, who's no longer in the National Football League and wasn't even close to being a shell of himself that we saw with the Green Bay Packers. So now you add on an Antonio Brown, and you're willing to tell me that he's going to hurt this team? He's not going to help them? That's just, it doesn't even make sense.
But too much is made, though. Too much. I think, especially when you don't have games, and he has, since he left Pittsburgh, and all the other noise outside. I agree, once he starts to play and he's back on the field, it's going to be about football. And we'll remember how good he is, and we'll see all the numbers, all the touchdowns, everything he's done. I think so much is made because you don't have that stuff to be able to draw from now, so it's all the other noise. The helmet thing became some big deal because a guy wants to hold on to his helmet that he's worn for 10 years in the National Football League.
It became a big deal because he left practice. That's why it became a big deal. Yeah, he can hold on to his helmet.
It's supposed to be enough practice because of his feet.
You have lawyers. Your lawyer can go handle that. You can do all the things that he did in relationship to the league while still being at practice, while still being at meetings. The big deal wasn't about, okay, it's his helmet. It's about that he wasn't in the building. And you hear the comments from John Gruden. Do you know when he'll be back? I don't know when he'll be back. Has anybody seen my receiver? So there's that speaks volume as well. Curtis Martin, when I took over in New York, said, we were talking about the locker room dynamics, and he said the most important time of the day for any child is the time he spends in the school bus, because there's no teachers there, there's no parents there, and you learn so much. And he equated the locker room to that as well, where you've got a group of guys, and especially the young guys, and the young guys are learning from the older guys, and you want the older guys to be able to set good examples. Does everybody respect talent? Does everybody respect production? Yes, but there's a whole life that is lived leading up to the game in terms of production and effectiveness and using everybody's time the best way. That's a reality.
But Eric, isn't there have been teams that have been disruptive and had all kinds of shady characters and whatnot who have won? It's not always a perfect harmony thing. Everybody's got to be a choir boy. Everybody doesn't work. But everybody's not the same.
They got 22
Everybody's
free
not
agents.
the same.
22 free agents, and 3 of them are Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict, and Richie Incognito.
You know this.
You know they have a rich history in the locker room.
Look,
with
I'm with
issues.
Rob here. You are who you are.
Yes.
No one is going to influence you once you've established who you are. A young guy, when I came into Green Bay, there wasn't anything that any of those guys could do that was going to make me do that. Like, that's not who I
you
was.
are.
But if they were doing things that were in line with my morals and values and what made me better, yes, I was going to do that because that's what I was already coming here to do. But I'm not going to go out and become Antonio Brown and do all the things that he does because that's not who I am. So for us to sit here and make it seem like he's going to have such a huge influence and that teams have never had to experience a guy who comes with who brings high production as well as issues, it's unrealistic. Like, this is not new to the National Football League or sport.
It's not new, Greg, but you're telling me that in all your time you didn't have a mentor? In all your time you didn't mentor younger players? You didn't show young kids the right way to do things versus the wrong way to do things?
I did.
And I think that your character is a little bit different than than everybody else's character. There's a strength of character to you that you aren't going to be influenced. But that's one of the reasons they wanted you.
Right.
They wanted a guy like you in the locker room because of that strength. But not everybody is you. And ideally you could get a locker room full of people like you with that strength of character. But that's not how it works. And you know that too. There are a lot of young guys that need help. They need somebody older to say, this is the right way to do things. And when they find that guy, their careers take off in a positive way. And if they find the other guy, their careers tend to be shorter than they hope to be.
Damn.
Agreed.
Man, boy, Eric Mangini just crushing it.
Oh, please, stop
There's
it.
all sorts of
Stop all
conflicting
this
info
Eric praise.
coming
Stop
out
it.
of Indy. How concerned should the
Finally you
Colts
start
be
talking.
about Andrew Luck's injury? That's next.
No mercy.
Andrew Luck has been sitting out of practice since July 29th with what was thought to be a lingering calf injury from April. Yesterday, Colts owner Jim Irsay told reporters Luck wasn't dealing with a calf strain, but actually a bone issue instead. GM Chris Ballard then clarified last night Luck has not injured a bone, but was having pain in the front of his ankle, and his week 1 status is currently uncertain. Eric Mangini, this doesn't sound good. How concerned should the Colts be with Andrew Luck?
Yeah, very concerned. I was not concerned at all a few weeks ago. I thought this was a situation where he'd gone through the injury before. He was learning the difference between pain and injury with the last situation, and he made some mistakes last time. And this time they were going to be cautious. So I thought that's exactly the approach that they were taking. But now when you look at it in its totality, really the injury showed up in March, and they've had 3 months to, April, May, June, almost 4 months to get to training camp, and he's only able to practice 3 days in training camp. Okay, so there's 4 months of rest. They get to training camp, he's only able to practice 3 days. They still haven't diagnosed what it is, and so now we're assuming the diagnosis is right after this long amount of time, and what's going to be different in the next 26 days or 30 days before the start of the season? Do they have a different rehab protocol? What's going to happen in 3 weeks that couldn't happen in 3 months that will make him pain-free?
But do we not know that this is just them taking a precaution on a guy who's had a lot of injuries in his career and taking a slower approach? I mean, we don't know whether or not they've diagnosed it right or misdiagnosed it, but I'm just saying, I'm looking at it as maybe they're just saying, we're going to take time with him, even though he's going to miss practice. We love to have him out there, but we know this team won't matter one bit if he can't play at all. So I'd rather take the long, slow approach rather than getting him back out there.
Rob, this is why we're saying we're concerned, because as Coach just mentioned, they knew this injury, or they thought they knew of the injury and what it was in the offseason, early in the offseason. And so to have all this time and you still get to training camp and it resurfaces into something different that we still are quite unsure of what it really is, like that draws concern. When I look at my offense and the potential of who we can be, and this is the key, period, of what makes us go, and Andrew Luck, our quarterback, I'm highly concerned because of the production that he provides, because of the glue that he is to our organization and to our team.
I would be concerned if he doesn't play game one. Now maybe I would take a look at it. I'm not convinced. I'm not there yet.
But Rob,
it.
what in their process has made you said they've rushed him back?
No,
there's 4 months of inactivity and treatment and ability to diagnose. He comes back and he played. I think he really only was on the field for 1 day of training camp practice where he actually moved around. They listed as 3, and now they've re-diagnosed it as it's potentially a bone injury or he has an extra bone in his foot. You can read all the different things, and there's really no one area that they focused in on. And did they change the medical staff after the last injury? Did they change the doctors?
I would hope so. I mean, I would hope so.
I mean, Eric, is this a situation where, like, Andrew Luck should be angry with the Colts? How do you misdiagnose something after 4 months? This guy was a comeback player of the year. The Colts are a legit Super Bowl contender. I have a ticket on them to win the Super Bowl. Like, this is bad news for the Colts.
Yeah, it's terrible news. And he was the comeback player of the year from an injury that was misdiagnosed the last time. And that's the scariest thing about this. I think Andrew Luck is a great player. I think he's physically tough. I think he's mentally tough. And the fact that he's in this spot at this point with the amount of time that's been put into this, and still the diagnosis is, depending on who you talk to, you know, it's the ankle, it's the calf, it's an extra bone. There doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity to make you confident that, yeah, he's going to play week 1 or at all.
And I get it because of the past, but I also think that maybe in the past they thought that they told us one thing, okay, yeah, he's going to be okay or whatever, and it's not that bad, and they put him back out there. And I think this time they're saying, we're just going to hold him back, right? Take our time on this, even if it means he's missing training camp or whatever, to get him right so that you don't have a mistake. You don't put him out there and have him really seriously injured even more to satisfy people to say, oh, he's in training camp and he's doing some stuff. Instead, just saying, we're going to wait.
Look, I want to be optimistic, but the guy practiced 3 days after missing 4 or being cautious for 4 months, and you've got 30 days till the opener. And now what protocol is in place that's going to change or increase or affect the healing process?
Maybe they're trying to set him up so he can win comeback player of the year again.
Eric,
they're on track.
Last year was the second best quarterback in the league in net yards per pass against the blitz. Okay, very tough, as you said. Tough guy, can scramble, win outside of the pocket. This ankle injury, what do you think the impact is against, say, an opponent like week 1, the Chargers, with Ingram and Bosa coming off the edge? You just said if he's going to play at all. It almost sounds like Andrew Luck won't be there week 1.
Well, you just don't know where this is going. You would like to feel that, okay, we've got this diagnosed, we've got a good plan in place to get him ready for week 1, but 3 days in the last 4 or 5 months, and now we got 30 days till the opener, it's a concern. In terms of his mobility, one of the reasons that Andrew Luck is so good is because of how smart he is. And one of the things that he did so much better last year than he's done in the past is realize that you can get rid of the ball and live to fight another day. You don't need to take a blow-up hit to gain 4 or 5 yards. And that's as important a lesson for a young quarterback as anything. So from a mobility standpoint, yeah, it would be disappointing for him to lose mobility, but he's smart enough to beat blitzes with pre-snap reads and understanding protections that I think he can compensate for the lack of mobility.
Where my concern is highest is for them not really knowing what exactly is going on with their star quarterback. What is the injury at its core? And I've been through this where being misdiagnosed and being on the field and not being able to go or give it my all because something is still hindering me, and it's classified as one thing, but it's not really that. And so until you go outside of those team doctors, and maybe he has done this where he's gone and got a second or third opinion outside of the facility and the team doctors, to where they have brought in a specialist and said, look, we don't know. or we do know. But that's where the biggest concern for me is that the fact that they don't really know what is going on and what is keeping him away from the football field.
But is it that they really don't know or they don't want us to know? Because I'm always, you being a former head coach, is that there's sometimes you just don't want to put out really what it is.
No,
I'm asking.
It's not sometimes, it's all the time.
It is all the time, but Coach, at least everyone would be on the same page conveying the same message. That's not the case here. We're hearing one thing as a bone, and then the next thing is, oh, it's an ankle. So which one is it?
Before that, it was a calf.
Before that, it was a calf. So you're getting mixed messages across the board from different people in the organization to where it leads me to believe they don't really know.
Eric, we talked earlier, team doctors. Is there a conflict of interest for team doctors because their job is to get people back on the field, being able to play, and sometimes, you know, if you're a team doctor and there's guys can't get back there, a coach or GM or ownership goes, man, what's going on here? Is there a conflict, and should players trust team doctors, or should they really have their own doctors?
Look, I think doctors in general do the best they can, but it's never a bad idea to get more than one opinion, especially when it's related to your livelihood. Is there a conflict of interest? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, those doctors have worked very hard to get the degrees that they have, to be in the positions that they're in.
But they are paid by the team, not by the
I
players.
understand that, but the bulk of their livelihood comes from the other patients that they see. And if suddenly they were to be sued by a player for malpractice or any of those things because the player felt like what you're suggesting, they're not going to put themselves at risk like that. The doctors that I know are true to the oath that they signed up for and to the values that they believe in, and they're not going to put their whole life at risk just to, put a player back in the field, a couple days earlier, especially in the modern environment. Maybe back in the day there was a little bit more of that.
All right, thanks, Coach. Great stuff as always. Coming up next, the state of the Cowboys is certainly messy. But is it enough to make Jerry Jones nervous? I think so. Cowboys reporter Clarence Hill joins us next.
No mercy.
Things have been interesting for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott continues his holdout and is not in camp. There is no deal in place after the season for receiver Amari Cooper, who missed practice with a foot injury. Newly acquired defensive end Robert Quinn underwent surgery for a broken hand. Oh, and he's suspended 2 games for PEDs. Meanwhile, Dak Prescott reportedly asked for $40 million a year and is unsigned beyond this season. Oh, boy. We're joined now by Cowboys reporter Clarence Hill of the Star-Telegram. Clarence, welcome to the show. Hopefully you can tell us what's really going on with Dak Prescott.
Yes.
These guys have no idea. Tell us, what's going on with Dak Prescott?
It's drama. It's drama. It's Dallas. It has to be drama. Jerry's saying all the right things, but you remember the Smokey Robinson Tears of a Clown?
Yes.
He's smiling, making jokes, and it's okay, but he's dying on the inside.
Oh.
For this Cowboys season that they hope to take the next step, really they added Robert Quinn. They think they have a better roster. Stephen Jones has said this roster is deeper as it has been since those 90s teams, especially on the offense and defensive line. They were really ready to make a next step, especially with Jason Garrett, basically coaching for a job. He has to get to at least NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl to get a new contract. And they really thought they have a chance to, or think they have a chance to take that next step finally to get to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1995, to go into a training camp in the season with Zeke and Cabo, Dak unsigned, Robert Quinn now suspended, Amari unsigned. This is not what they wanted.
And when you talk about that and them feeling good about this team, that's why I say Ezekiel Elliott has some leverage, because they need him. This team is all geared about the running game. We've seen the record when he's playing and when he's not playing. Does he have leverage in your mind?
Yeah, he has leverage. I mean, first of all, the fact that he held out is the reason why they're addressing his contract now. Everybody says, why is he holding out? He has no leverage. Well, the Cowboys wanted to kick his contract to next season. The fact that he's holding out, mission accomplished. They're addressing his contract now. They're talking contract with him now. Now, leverage comes obviously when the regular season starts. He didn't have any carries in the preseason last year, so it's not a matter of him needing to be in camp and needing to play in the preseason. They don't really want. Even Jerry said no one cares about the preseason. It's when the regular season starts. That's when the heat is on for the Cowboys to get Zeke and Dak signed.
So with that being said, who do you feel like they should address first? Or does it matter? Do they just need to get one of these guys signed and then you think it'll be a domino effect?
Well, at this point, it doesn't matter. You just got to get the guys signed. I mean, at this point, the season is less than 3 weeks away. You got to get it done. Ideally, they would have liked to get Dak done. You want to get the biggest contract done first. They've been talking about getting Dak done since the end of last season. Then you let Russell Wilson get his deal. You let Carson Wentz get his deal. You let Roethlisberger get his deal. And those guys costing them more money. It's costing Cowboys more money. The longer they've waited, it's cost them more money. And Dak didn't go from a small-town agent in Shreveport who he signed out of when he was a fourth-round pick to CAA and Todd France to take a team-friendly deal. He's trying to get paid, and he's going to get paid.
So, Clarence, it sounds like you're on board with Jerry Jones being in full-blown panic. I mean, you mentioned Jason Garrett. These guys love to ignore Garrett.
You didn't mention the word panic. Stop it.
Jerry Jones is panicking. And Amari Cooper, he wants a deal, too. Maybe he's waiting to see Julio Jones' money. He's hurt. This Jerry Jones situation, at what level does he start to get frustrated with none of his stars being on the same page?
He's squeezing his arm. He's squeezing the blood out of his arm. I'm sure y'all saw that clip earlier. That the crazy squeezing his arm, waiting for his help. And he said his help is going to come out of another part of his anatomy, his rear. But
that's again, TMI, right?
Yeah, well, that's what he said.
We're talking about a billionaire asking for help on a team that won a division.
Again, Jerry has been through these before. This is sport for him. I said it before. This is sport for him. He likes to negotiate. He can go from, laughing and joking to shrewd businessman in a matter of seconds. Again, he is patient because he knows things come together. Deadlines make deals for Jerry and the Cowboys. The deadline is the start of the season. That's when he starts panicking for me.
How about, is there any doubt about Dak Prescott being that guy, being a franchise guy? Because all the numbers, they've won 2 out of the last 3 divisions. We've seen all the other numbers or whatever, but there are a lot of people, when they look at him, he's a third-tier quarterback. He was ranked 26 by some
Football Outsiders.
A
lot of people, meaning Rob Parker.
Right. And Jason McIntyre. I've seen the tweets. I've seen it.
There we go.
I've seen it all. I keep up.
Spoken a lot about it.
No, I'm just asking, is there any doubt really that...
Not inside the organization.
Okay,
they've already offered him a $30 million deal.
Thank you.
There's no
but
question.
that's not the deal to the franchise quarterback that...
It's a top 5 deal.
But it's not. It's a top 6, but it doesn't make you richer than what Carson Wentz got. So the deal is less money. I'm just saying, most quarterbacks, when they're a franchise guy, gets a better deal than the guy before him. Am I right or wrong?
It's called negotiations. That's why Dak is supposedly asked for 40. I told him it wasn't 40. It was approaching 40, with some incentives and all the other stuff. But I know his initial offer was 34. I reported that in June. So Dak understands. Again, he has CAA. They're going to ask for this number. The Cowboys start here, but Stephen Jones has already said that they got a little room to add more to it. They're going to add some juice to that. It won't just be 30. It'll be somewhere around 32, 33. He's going to get Carson Wentz money whenever he signs. And, again, the Cowboys have no problem with Dak. They believe in Dak now and for the future. They believe in him as a leader. They believe in his work ethic. He's the right kind of guy to lead their franchise. And, again, considering everything you had with Zeke, Dak has been the face of their franchise. He's been one who has been the bright shining star in how he handles himself on and off the field.
Can he win a game by himself though? If you don't have the running game?
No,
I'm
not on the field by himself.
You know what's funny about that? Can I ask you a question?
Asking.
You know what's funny about that? Because everybody act like he needs all this help. Carson Wentz. That team won a Super Bowl without him. That's a talented team that won a Super Bowl without him.
Only difference is Carson Wentz also had an MVP season derailed by an injury.
Well,
and he also finished with more touchdowns and less interceptions than Tom Brady, who won the MVP.
We don't know what he would do in the playoffs.
No, I'm just trying to tell you.
Let me put you on the spot, though. Hold up. You said Dak, $34 million possibly. Eric Mangini was saying yesterday here, franchise tag is possible. What's more likely for Dak at this juncture? We're 2 weeks away from the season.
Well, the franchise tag is right now would be $32.9 million.
Okay.
And so that's all right there. That's why the Cowboys offered him 30 is silly. He's not going to sign for 30. Because
you sign for less than what you would have got.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. They want to get a deal done. I believe that they will get a deal done, again, at the start of the season. But, again, Jerry says that, they're comfortable negotiating into the season. But, again, Dak is making $2.02 million this year. Why would you chance a $30 million, at least a $30 million contract at the start of the season for $2.02 million? Come on. He gets hurt, none of that. He gets none of it.
I understand all that, which is a lot of what you're saying is why I feel like Jerry Jones is not panicking, because he does have Dak on board. He's in training camp. He's not going anywhere. He understands, look, we're working out a deal. He's the ultimate example that you want him to be for all these other guys. He's doing it the right way, supposedly, or his way, and what he feels like he needs, his approach, in being in camp, trusting that it's going to get done. I'm going to allow my agents to handle that.
But he's a quarterback, and they always get paid.
My point exactly, which is why there is no
he's making. He's gonna
there
get
is
paid.
no panic because he's going to get paid. The holding of the arm, the needing help is Ezekiel Elliott.
Zeke and Cabo.
I need you to get here, Zeke. I want to put eyes on you. I just want you to know that, look, I've had your back. We're going to take care of you. I don't think that's in question. Jerry Jones said a few weeks back, that when have I not gotten the deal done? And it's true. When has he not gotten the deal done? That has needed to get done. It may take time. These deals don't ever get done overnight or as quickly as we would hope for them to get done, or we would have nothing to talk about. So let's be realistic here.
Again, deadlines make deals. And so the deadline to start the season, and certainly there will be some thrust in the next couple of weeks to get something done, get Zeke back from Cabo and get him in camp. But you don't want to go into the season. I know Jerry keeps saying that, he's keep pumping up Tony Pollard, and,
right.
and how they can win without him and they can carry the load and all this stuff. No way that the Cowboys believe that they can achieve what they want to achieve this year without Ezekiel.
Hey, let me dive deep on Dak real quick. So you saw, I put it out there, the Football Outsiders had him as the 26th rated quarterback per the advanced stats. That's below Trubisky, Andy Dalton, yada, yada, yada. Dak took 56 sacks last year, Clarence, second most in the NFL, behind an awesome offensive line. I know their center was not
It wasn't awesome last year.
That's a great question.
It wasn't awesome last year.
It wasn't awesome last year. So, Zeke was there, Amari Cooper for the final, half of the season. Do you believe Dak is ready to make that next step? Because, I don't know, you could say the advanced stats have saw him decline every year, even though the roster's kind of improved.
The advanced stats, did you break that down, how he was in the second half of the season?
Second half of the season?
No,
he was a little better.
He was much better. Come on. You saw the 400-yard game against the Eagles. Did you watch the game? Do you watch him in the fourth quarter? Do you look at the fourth quarter comebacks? Do you look at the close wins? Do you look at all that stuff?
Well, the close wins is interesting, Clarence. 8-2 in one-score games. That number tends to flip year to year. There was some luck involved. Drew Brees and that. Come on, the Saints-Cowboys game. Little luck involved both ways. I know, the Cowboys fans are angry.
No, it's not a fan thing. The guy's proven to be a winner. The guy's proven to be a gamer.
Yes.
He made Mississippi State relevant, okay? With no help. He made them relevant, okay? He, coming in as rookie, he made plays to help this team go 13-3.
Didn't make mistakes,
He has not been given anything. Okay, he's earned and worked for this. The guy has shown nothing but to be a winner. You can say there are guys that throw the ball better, they're prettier, they have a better arm. The guy's a leader. The guy's been a winner.
Robbie, you want to jump in with any Rams, Cowboys?
No, he can't.
Back in the playoff game?
I'm just not there with Dak Prescott.
He's not pretty on paper,
I don't believe the Cowboys are going to win a Super Bowl with him. I don't.
Yeah.
I think that he could be a part of it, but it would be more about the running back and the defense.
It's a team.
I understand that.
It's a triplet.
I don't believe if you need him to win the game for you, that he can do it. I don't believe that.
You don't believe that? You don't believe that Tom Brady could win a Super Bowl or get back to
Tom Brady's been lucky his whole career.
All right, we're going to have to cut it short on that, Rob. Give me a break. Clarence, great stuff. Thank you for coming in today. Just amazing insight.
Man, thank you.
Is Jadeveon Clowney really getting shipped out of Houston? We'll discuss his most likely landing spot next.
No mercy.
Headed down to Houston, where NFL Network's Mike Garafolo is reporting that Jadeveon Clowney could be traded quickly by the Texans if the deal is right. Clowney is currently holding out after being franchise tagged by Houston. Clowney has 18.5 sacks in the past 2 years and has made 3 Pro Bowls in his 5 years in the NFL. Rob, give me a best destination for Mr. Clowney.
I know most people don't want to go to Cleveland, but when you talk about the Browns and the big names that have come, especially when you pick up OBJ and whatnot, but Clowney, to me, maybe he should wind up in Cleveland. He's another guy, star quality, star name, and he could play alongside with Myles Garrett, right? So
that's terrifying.
I would say Cleveland. Why not?
Add to another reason why they're not going to win a lot of games, or they are.
They're not. Because they're going to implode. You could have talent and still not win, Greg.
You can. I would like to see him end up somewhere like Philadelphia. You lose a Michael Bennett to the New England Patriots.
They jettisoned him, right? Yeah.
You got Brandon Graham already. You got a Fletcher Cox. You got talent up front, no doubt about it. And they like to rotate guys. They like to keep guys fresh. It would be enormously great if he ended up in Philly.
Philly already has a great roster.
And they already have a great roster, but you lose a guy like Michael Bennett who produced 9 sacks last year for you. Like, you could end up inserting Jadeveon Clowney, and it could be special.
Also lost Chris Long. Yeah, that would be dangerous. Now, I'm going to throw out, listen, I wanted to toss my Jets in the mix. They haven't had an edge rusher in forever. But the smartest spot for Clowney is the New England Patriots. Guys, if you look closely, Bill Belichick has the most draft capital of anyone in the league next year. Now, there is speculation that he's saving to go up and get a quarterback to be the next Tom Brady, whether it's Tua, Justin Herbert from Oregon, what have you. But if he doesn't want to get a quarterback, Jadeveon Clowney would replace Trey Flowers, the great defensive end they had who lost and went to the Lions. Listen, we know the Patriots love to make moves, buy guys at value low. Bill O'Brien is a former Patriot guy. It all kind of lines up for possibly Clowney going to the New England Patriots.
Possibly, but that's why they got Michael Bennett over there.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Bennett's nice. He's no Jadeveon Clowney. Now, I don't want to kill Clowney here. He's had a lot of injuries in his career. He's had a very good career, but he has kind of underwhelmed as the number 1 overall pick. We haven't seen a dominant. He hasn't had double-digit sacks once in his career.
I mean, it's hard to say a guy has been underwhelming.
Dude, he's playing opposite J.J. Watt, and he's not getting all the double teams, and he's not dominating.
Here's the thing. Everyone thinks it's so easy to perform and have success at these jobs that these guys are holding down. He is getting a lot of attention. Although J.J. Watt is getting a lot of attention, so is Jadeveon Clowney. Like, you're not going to sleep on him when you look at your scouting report and say, oh, yeah, let's put all the attention on J.J. Watt. Let this guy run free. No, he's being helped on the offensive line. You're chipping on him. He's been to how many Pro Bowls?
I think 3 Pro Bowls.
3 in 5 years.
How is that underperforming?
Oh, stop. Come on.
I'm saying, so we
is that the new barrier for greatness, Pro Bowls?
No, but it's a little bit of an indication. Come on,
yes.
let's be honest. There is one, but I would say this. But wouldn't he fit in with Cleveland with just, I think they would win, people would predict them to win the Super Bowl if he were to go there, right?
They're already predicting that.
Because that's where they are on the Browns.
You just want us to say that.
Yes, anybody they add, there we go, it's all over. Why should we even play? They're going to win everything.
Cleveland would be an interesting place for what they've done, snatching up Odell Beckham.
We're talking about high-profile guys.
Absolutely. Kareem Hunt, taking the chance on Kareem Hunt, snatching him up, adding a Jadeveon Clowney alongside Myles Garrett, who they already have a locked and loaded defense, might I add.
Well, the talent is there. They were the worst tackling defense in the league last year. They missed the most tackles.
They're a young defense, too.
This is true. Let me give 2 other sleepers before we got to go here. New York Giants, second to last in the league in sacks last year. Vernon's gone. Landon Collins is gone. They got nobody on that defense. I think Clowney could make sense there.
That does make a lot of sense.
And the Seattle Seahawks, who lost Frank Clark, they're trying to replace him with a hodgepodge of players. That Seattle team is looking bad. They're trajecting downward. Clowney could change an impact. Remember, there's a defense that had the Legion of Boom a couple years ago, okay? Those guys are all gone. Now they have no pass rush. No pass rush, young secondary, could be ugly in Seattle.
What about the Colts? Typically, when things like this go down, you end up going right to your opponent or your opposition that has seen you the most.
You trading him in the division?
I don't know if you trade him into the division, but I mean, hey, you never know. Sometimes, let me tell you something about trades. When the offer is good enough, you will take it.
Well, tell that to the New York Giants, who did not do that for Odell Beckham. Rob Gronkowski says he's going to make a major announcement later this month. Could Tom Brady be getting his guy back? Stop laughing, Rob.
Let's go, Rob.
Next.
That's not it.
Let's go.
No mercy.
Time for our final topic of the day. Rob Gronkowski is back. Well, kinda. Yesterday, a PR firm sent out invitations on behalf of Gronk saying, quote, I'm reaching out to invite you to a Tuesday, August 27th press conference where Gronk will unveil his next chapter. I got my invite, Greg. I hope you got yours. What do you think Gronk's next chapter will be?
What do I think, or what should it be?
Well, either one.
Let me see. We're on Fox. I figure like this, Gronk would fit perfectly here on Fox, doing something that he would probably also fit perfectly for, which is WWE. World Wrestling, right there with the guy that I used to admire in Stone Cold, Steve Austin. I would think Rob Gronkowski would be phenomenal with just his charisma, his character, his size, his build. Just go wrestle.
Only one question. Can you fumble in wrestling?
Oh,
you can't
no.
do that. What?
You can. You can fumble
Can you
around.
fumble? I'm just asking.
You can.
I thought he was going to announce that he's getting his bartender's degree, so he's so good at mixing drinks and all that kind of stuff. He's the ultimate frat boy. I thought
he already got
part
that.
of it. Yeah, he's got that. He's got a doctorate in mixing drinks. Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like. I think Greg's spot on. Wrestling is the perfect spot, unless it could be acting. Do you think he would announce, though, that he's going to try to be an actor?
Well, you would do the wrestling first and then move into acting.
Exactly.
That's
The Rock.
That's the natural progression
It
for
is.
wrestlers.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Would be perfect for Gronk. Now, Tom Brady would probably be upset. Rob Parker, how do you think Tom Brady will react if Gronk becomes a wrestler?
I think he'd enjoy it. I do. I think Gronk is that guy who loves the spotlight, loves all that attention, and has been faking it for a long time with Tom Brady, so this makes sense.
Oh.
He's been faking it.
Faking what? Come on, Parker.
Yeah, no, faking what?
Yeah. All right, let's not get him
all
in
those
trouble.
great catches.
Oh, my goodness. He won the Super Bowl for them, but he's faking it. All right, guys.
They won without Gronk. Do you remember that?
They just beat the Rams with Gronk. Don't get started this late in the show, Parker.
I'm just saying.
All right, this is another great episode. I'm sure people will love this online. Booyah, bam. That'll be it for us.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Jenny Taft. Join us again at the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.